All right, let's cut through all the noise. The political ads, the opinions. Today, we're just opening a case file on San Jose. We're going to focus only on the hard numbers and the documented facts. Think of it as forensic accountability.
So let's just start with a single number, $120 million. That's how much the city of San Jose reportedly budgeted to address its homelessness crisis under Mayor Matt Mahan. This number, this is our starting point.
So what did they get for that massive investment? You'd expect some improvement, right? Well, we're looking at the city's own data here. Before this budget, the number of homeless residents was 6,266. And after, that number actually went up to 6,503.
Yeah, that's an increase of 237 people. Let's be perfectly clear about this. After spending $120 million, the data shows the number of people on the streets of San Jose got worse. So what does that actually look like when you break it down? Let's do the kind of math that you don't typically see in the press releases.
It's actually pretty simple. You take the $120 million they spent, and you divide it by the 237 new people on the street, and you end up with this staggering figure, over $500,000 for each additional person who became homeless during this time.
Now, in almost any other context, spending that much money to make a problem worse would be called a total failure. But in the world of California politics, the administration actually called its efforts progress.
So you have to be asking, how did this happen? Where did the money really go? Well, the next piece of evidence in our file points to something called Measure E and what the voters were actually promised. And this is a really key point. You see, voters approved Measure E for one very specific thing: permanent affordable housing. A real long-term solution. But city records showed that's not what City Hall delivered. Instead, the money went to temporary shelters and tents, a total shift from a long-term strategy to a short-term Band-Aid.
And we're not talking about a small change in plans. The documents show that over $23 million was redirected away from what voters approved. That's a huge chunk of taxpayer money that was diverted from its original stated purpose.
This focus on appearances over actual solutions, it's not a one-time thing. The sources suggest a pattern, a kind of playbook that gets rolled out whenever a big event like the Super Bowl comes to town. The focus suddenly shifts from fixing the problem to just hiding it.
And here's that playbook in action. Right before the Super Bowl, there was a big sweep of the encampments. The data shows 370 people were displaced. Over 500,000 pounds of trash were removed. But now, look at that last column. The number of people who were given permanent housing from all this? 0. Not one.
So what does that tell you? This isn't a strategy to solve homelessness. It's a strategy to relocate the problem just long enough for the cameras to get their clean shots. As soon as the media leaves, the problem is right back where it was. All of these decisions were made under the leadership of Mayor Matt Mahan. And to get the full context here, it's worth looking at the contrast between his public image and the documented facts of his background.
The official image you'll see is of a man with working-class roots, a former teacher, a man of the people. This is the persona you'll find in all the campaign materials.
But then you look at the documented reality. He's a Harvard graduate and was student body president there. He was dorm mates with Mark Zuckerberg. He went on to found tech companies with people like Sean Parker and has been backed by Silicon Valley billionaires. It's a very, very different picture from the man of the people image.
So why does this local case file matter to everyone in California? Well, because this record in San Jose is now being sold as the blueprint for a statewide platform with eyes on the governor's office.
And don't just take our word for it. When asked what his agenda as governor would be, his own words were to finish what Newsom started. So the pitch is to take this approach and apply it to the entire state.
And let's look at a few other receipts from his record. There's a push for a sales tax that would hit 11% in some areas, a vote to ban gas-powered cars from city property, and support for a redistricting plan that critics say was just designed to help the people already in power.
Okay, let's connect all of this back to the real world. Let's talk about the final receipt, what this all costs the average person living in California every single day.
You feel it every time you go to the gas station, right? Gas prices are pushing $6 a gallon. It's one of the biggest reasons the cost of living here is just through the roof.
And then there's the sales tax. In some parts of the state, it's already at 11%, one of the highest rates in the entire country. That makes every single thing you buy more expensive. And that brings us right back to where we started.
That $120 million of taxpayer money. Gone. Spent during a time when the homeless problem in the city actually got bigger.
So, the question this whole case file leaves us with is a really simple one. After you look at the numbers, the spending, and the results, is a solution being proposed for the whole state just more of the same?
Look, we've laid out the data here. The call to action is simple. Share this with someone who needs to see the numbers behind the headlines. Because if we don't start examining the receipts, this cycle is just going to continue.